A royal renovation turned into a bombshell revelation inside Kensington Palace. A sealed jewelry box marked DS hidden behind a wall in Diana's former quarters. Untouched for decades, it contained jewels, handwritten letters, and one chilling message. "These will speak when I no longer can." Now, for the first time, we reveal what was inside and why it's shaking the royal family to its core. Get ready. Princess Diana just spoke from beyond the grave. The accidental discovery that shook Kensington Palace. It was during a routine renovation in February 2024 that workers uncovered something extraordinary in Apartment 8, the former residence of Princess Diana inside Kensington Palace. Tucked behind a seldom-used storage area, laborers were removing wall paneling to address insulation issues when they found an unusually solid panel. Beneath layers of aged plaster and wallpaper, a sealed wooden chest emerged, untouched, dust-covered, and bolted shut. It bore the engraved initials DS for Diana Spencer, and in smaller lettering, the date 1981, the year she married Prince Charles. The chest was discovered around 3:20 p.m., and within 90 minutes, senior palace staff had halted all construction in the area. According to internal reports, Prince William was contacted directly from his offices at Adelaide Cottage. He was said to be visibly shaken upon hearing the location and markings of the box. With the initials matching his mother's and the timing aligning with her entry into the royal family, William insisted that the opening be done in private, and only in the presence of his wife, Princess Catherine. Security protocols were heightened to level 3, with all contractors removed from the vicinity. Guards sealed off the wing by 5 p.m., and a royal archival team arrived soon after with preservation equipment. The chest itself was carefully removed from the wall and transported under heavy escort to a private room in the Kensington Palace sub-basement, where it was placed under 24-hour surveillance. The discovery, described by an insider as a historical moment wrapped in velvet and dust, was considered too sensitive to release publicly, at least not until its contents were fully examined. The significance of the initials, the secrecy, and the placement near Diana's former living space was simply too deliberate to ignore. By the evening of February 17, 2024, whispers of the discovery had begun to spread among high-level royal staff. What had started as a maintenance job had now become a matter of royal preservation and possibly revelation. The phrase repeated among those close to the family was one of reverence, a sacred find. For William, it was a final gift from a mother taken too soon. For Catherine, it was a key to the heart of a woman whose legacy still shapes the monarchy. And for the world, it was a box full of questions, waiting for answers. But it wasn't just the timing or location that made the chest remarkable. It was what lay inside. When the lid was finally lifted, what William and Catherine saw wasn't just jewelry. It was a message from the past. From velvet linings to Latin inscriptions, every element of the box suggested intention, that Diana herself had hidden it, preserved it, and left it as a time capsule. And what came next would only deepen the mystery and emotional weight of her final keepsakes. The box itself. When the box was finally opened in the early hours of February 18, 2024, the air around it seemed to shift. Inside was not a chaotic assortment of objects, but a painstakingly arranged time capsule. The interior was lined with deep blue velvet, bordered by gold filigree, and resting at the center was a small metal key. Engraved on the underside of the lid was a Latin phrase, Veritas vincit, truth prevails. It was clear this wasn't meant to be found by accident. It was meant to be opened when the time was right. The key fit perfectly into a second, smaller compartment at the base of the chest. Within it were items wrapped in tissue-thin silk, dated documents, and even a few hand-drawn sketches. There were no catalog numbers, no formal tagging, nothing to indicate that royal archivists had ever seen or recorded these pieces. That alone was shocking. Every known piece of Diana's jewelry had been accounted for in 1997, shortly after her tragic death in Paris. And yet, here was an entire collection no one knew existed, preserved in silence for over 27 years. The handwritten notes were marked in Diana's unmistakable cursive, referencing dates like July 29, 1981, her wedding day, and June 21, 1982, the day she gave birth to Prince William. One card read, "To be opened only by those who know what this truly means." Another document appeared to be a personal inventory of which pieces were meant for her sons, and which should go to the women who carry my heart forward. Among the sketches was a rough design for a crescent-shaped tiara, one that had never appeared in public or private royal photographs. Experts brought in to evaluate the box concluded it had likely been sealed between 1995 and 1996, during the final years of Diana's life, when she was distancing herself from royal tradition. At the time, she was no longer referred to as Her Royal Highness, but she remained Princess of Wales. The craftsmanship of the box, the intimacy of the letters, and the deliberate concealment all pointed to one thing. Diana hid it herself. Whether out of fear, hope, or both, she had preserved a part of her soul in wood, velvet, and ink. The outside of the box hinted at meaning, but it was what lay inside that truly shook the royal family. Diana's intentions weren't just symbolic. They were specific, personal, and at times, heartbreaking. What William and Catherine found next confirmed that the jewelry wasn't simply decoration. It was testimony. From unworn heirlooms to private letters, every item told a story, one that would connect her children, her granddaughter, and perhaps even the future of the monarchy itself. The real shock was only just beginning. What was inside? The first piece lifted from the box was a stunning emerald-studded choker, unlike anything seen in public during Diana's lifetime. Set in platinum with 17 large emeralds, the necklace matched descriptions in unconfirmed rumors about a gift from a Middle Eastern dignitary during a visit in 1986. Royal staff had long believed the necklace had been returned or lost, yet here it was, safely nestled in velvet, untouched by time. No official photo of Diana wearing it exists, confirming that this treasure had been purposefully withheld from the public eye. Beneath the choker lay a pair of sapphire earrings, identical in cut and clarity to the legendary sapphire ring now worn by Princess Catherine. Tied around the earrings was a folded note in Diana's handwriting, labeled, "For Charlotte, when she is ready." It was dated March 1996, more than a year before her death. That a woman could envision her unborn granddaughter years before her own son would marry spoke volumes. Diana had left behind a vision not only of who would receive her jewels, but who would understand them. In the bottom tray of the box was a letter addressed to William and Harry, written in blue ink and sealed with a pressed flower. The contents were tender but direct. "These are pieces of me, of our family, of love never spoken aloud. Let them remind you of what matters when titles fall away." Several other items included coded markings. On a bracelet clasp were the letters MC, likely Mother Camilla, Diana's term for Charles's longtime companion. Another had the initials JS, believed to reference James Hewitt, the man long speculated to be romantically linked to Diana in the early 1990s. The last item in the box was a torn diary page dated August 1st, 1997, just 30 days before her fatal crash. On it, Diana had written, "They will try to erase me. These will speak when I no longer can." The weight of those words hit William and Catherine like a wave. This wasn't just a jewelry box. It was a silent archive designed to outlive headlines and protocol. Through stones, symbols, and letters, Diana had crafted her final act, not for herself, but for the future she hoped her children would one day create. The emotional impact on William and Catherine. When the final letter was read aloud inside the quiet chamber at Kensington Palace, there were no cameras, no staff, only Prince William and Princess Catherine sitting side by side. It was February 19th, 2024, and they had just spent nearly 4 hours reviewing the contents of the chest. One note, addressed to Wills, struck hardest. "You were born into noise. You'll rule through silence. Let love be your crown." William reportedly placed the letter on his lap and wept. Catherine was equally overwhelmed. In the box was a note written directly to her. "For the woman who carries my heart forward." It was dated October 1996, during the final months of Diana's life, and was accompanied by a delicate gold bracelet with a single pearl charm. Catherine later confided to a friend that she had never felt closer to Diana than in that moment. According to staff, she removed her official jewelry and wore the bracelet for the remainder of the evening. It was, in her words, a moment too sacred for anything else. The couple canceled all public engagements scheduled for February 20th and remained inside Kensington to process what they had uncovered. William reportedly told aides, "I feel like I'm seeing her again. Not the icon, but my mother." He later called King Charles, informing him of the find. Charles, according to sources, remained silent for several seconds before replying, "Then her voice was louder than we thought." That acknowledgement marked the first private recognition from the king of what had been found in the hidden vault. For William, the discovery reignited his long-standing commitment to protect Diana's legacy from distortion. For Catherine, it created a new personal mission: to ensure her daughter would grow up knowing not just the history of her family, but the spirit of the woman who had fought to leave it behind. And for the crown, it was an emotional reckoning. The people's princess had returned, not in person, but in purpose, and the monarchy would never be the same. But among all the letters and heirlooms passed to William and Catherine, one message was set apart. It was sealed with a wax imprint of the Spencer family crest, and addressed not to any royal title, but to "my granddaughter." It was a letter meant for someone Diana never met, yet somehow saw coming. What it contained would shape not just Charlotte's future, but possibly the future of the monarchy itself. Diana had made her final bequest, and it was meant for a queen. Charlotte's inheritance. Tucked inside a red envelope lined with Spencer tartan fabric, the letter addressed "To my granddaughter if I never meet you" was dated August 10, 1996. That was just 21 days before Diana's untimely death in Paris. She could not have known when, or even if, William would have a daughter. Yet the letter spoke as if Charlotte already existed. "You will be the one who restores the light," it read, "not because of your title, but because of your truth." Alongside the letter were two stunning pieces of jewelry: a pair of sapphire earrings and a crescent-shaped tiara made of white gold and diamonds. The tiara had never been catalogued by the royal collection, and is now believed to have belonged to Diana's grandmother, Cynthia Spencer, who passed in 1972. Diana's note instructed that the earrings and tiara be given "when she is ready, not when the world says so." It was a powerful message of autonomy and legacy, left in stone and sapphire. William reportedly read the letter multiple times in silence. When he showed it to Catherine, she wept. It was not just the sentiment that moved her, it was the eerie foresight. Charlotte, born in May 2015, would one day be the only princess in modern royal history to retain her place in succession despite having a younger brother, due to the Succession to the Crown Act 2013. Diana's message now felt prophetic, a direct hand guiding the future from across decades. The inheritance has since been sealed again and placed in a secure royal archive under William and Catherine's supervision. Charlotte has not yet been informed of the contents, but insiders believe the jewelry and letter will be given to her when she reaches age 18 in 2033. For now, the future queen grows up unaware of the sacred gift waiting beneath the palace floors, a legacy not of diamonds alone, but of defiance, protection, and a grandmother's silent promise. But while Charlotte's name was etched into stone, one figure was notably absent from Diana's preserved legacy. Among the letters, jewelry, and heirloom instructions, there was no mention of Meghan Markle. No initials, no keepsakes, no words of welcome or warning. For some, it was a matter of timing. For others, it was intentional. Either way, Meghan's exclusion spoke volumes. And when Harry learned the truth, insiders say it reopened more wounds than it healed, both in the palace and at home. Meghan's exclusion. Of all the revelations within Diana's hidden jewelry box, perhaps the most surprising was the silence. Nowhere in the documents, letters, or notes was there any reference to Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. Not in initials, nicknames, or abstract hints. Despite Meghan's frequent comparisons to Diana, both in the press and in interviews, the box offered nothing that connected the two. For a woman who had become synonymous with Diana's legacy in recent years, the omission was striking. Some historians argue the absence is purely circumstantial. The majority of the notes were dated between 1994 and 1997, long before Prince Harry met Meghan in 2016. But others point to the specificity of Diana's instructions. Her letters referred directly to Catherine, to Charlotte, even to hypothetical descendants. The intentional nature of the messages left little room for coincidence. Diana had made choices, and Meghan was not one of them. Harry's reaction was reportedly complex. According to sources close to the Sussexes, he expressed both sorrow and confusion. Meghan, for her part, has remained publicly silent. Privately, however, insiders say she felt erased by the discovery. While Meghan had often embraced Diana's memory, wearing jewelry inspired by her style and speaking of their shared experience, the chest offered no validation. In the vault built by Diana's hands, Meghan's name never entered the story. The royal family has made no official comment regarding Meghan's exclusion, but the omission has reignited public debate about legacy, inclusion, and the future shape of the monarchy. Whether intentional or not, the silence around Meghan's name spoke loudly. In the secret world beneath Kensington, Diana's intentions had been preserved with precision. And in that silence, some say, lay the truest expression of her lasting judgment, not through criticism, but through complete and deliberate absence. Camilla's unwanted surprise. Near the bottom of the box, buried beneath silk wraps and faded scrolls, was a small emerald brooch, unlike any in the official royal registry. Its setting was classic Edwardian, surrounded by 14 seed pearls and set in yellow gold. But it was the engraving on the back that turned whispers into thunder. Carved into the clasp were two words, etched in fine script. Not hers. No signature, no initials. But the implication was unmistakable. This brooch was about Camilla Parker Bowles. According to royal historians, Diana was gifted an emerald piece during a state visit in 1989, just as whispers about Charles and Camilla's rekindled affair began to circulate. Diana was reportedly furious that Camilla had worn a near-identical piece to a royal function just weeks later. Aides from the time say Diana refused to wear hers publicly after that, and instead had it quietly stored away. Now, 35 years later, that very brooch had resurfaced with a message impossible to ignore. The revelation has reportedly enraged Camilla. Palace aides confirm she was informed within 24 hours of the box's contents being confirmed and was visibly distressed. Sources say she demanded that the brooch be excluded from archival records, insisting it not be made public, but William, backed by Catherine, refused. "It's part of her truth," he allegedly said, referring to Diana. The decision marked yet another fracture between the Queen Consort and the next generation of royals. Media speculation exploded. The public began sharing side-by-side images of Camilla's 1990s emeralds and the recovered brooch. Hashtags like #NotHers and #DianaSpoke trended for days. For many, it wasn't just about jewelry. It was about the unspoken war between two women and a monarchy that had long tried to bury its sins. The brooch wasn't just defiant, it was Diana's final word in a fight she never got to finish. As the emerald brooch reopened old wounds within the royal family, the world turned its attention to a question that had been quietly simmering for decades. Did Queen Elizabeth II know about the hidden vault? Was she aware of what Diana had preserved beneath Kensington Palace? What came next would provide the answer. A chilling confirmation buried among the scrolls, and it revealed that not only did the Queen know, she may have been the one who helped keep it secret all along. Queen Elizabeth's connection. In a separate envelope found at the bottom of the box, a wax-sealed document bore the signature Elizabeth R., dated November 14, 1996. Just weeks after Diana finalized her divorce, the letter was brief but unmistakable. "It shall remain where it lies, until those with rightful eyes find it." The handwriting was confirmed by experts to match the Queen's, and the seal was traced to a personal stationery badge used during her Balmoral retreat in the mid-1990s. That wasn't all. Hidden inside a false panel of the box itself was a miniature scroll bearing a single line in Latin. Domus habet memoriam. Translation: The house remembers. That phrase had appeared once before, in an archived note from Elizabeth to her private secretary in 1953, referencing her belief that the crown should hold its history in silence, not spectacle. That connection, now linked to Diana's sealed box, confirmed the unimaginable. The Queen not only knew about Diana's secret, she had likely helped protect it. This revelation changes everything. Elizabeth, who famously avoided emotional gestures, may have granted Diana one final act of independence, to preserve her truth without royal interference. Experts believe the Queen viewed the box not as rebellion, but as testimony. She was, after all, a monarch raised on duty and secrets. But in this one case, she may have chosen understanding over control. "There are truths that will outlive me," she once wrote in a personal note found among her Platinum Jubilee archives in 2022. Now, those truths had been unearthed. William is said to be deeply moved by the confirmation that his grandmother played a quiet role in preserving Diana's voice. Catherine, too, has reportedly found peace knowing that the two most influential women in William's life were not in conflict over legacy, but aligned in silent trust. For the public, it reframes the Queen's legacy not as one of detachment, but of quiet grace. A monarch who knew when to speak, and more importantly, when not to erase. With Elizabeth's connection confirmed and Camilla reeling from public backlash, the palace braced itself for what came next, the emotional fallout. Behind closed doors, King Charles, already battling worsening health, had prepared a farewell message for his family. When it was shown to William and Catherine in private, no one expected it would center around Diana, or Catherine herself. What followed would leave the future queen overwhelmed and the monarchy facing one of its most emotional moments in recent history. Catherine collapses. On February 23, 2024, inside a secure chamber at Kensington Palace, King Charles's private farewell video was played for William and Catherine. The king, whose health had deteriorated rapidly since late 2023, had recorded a message to be delivered only if his condition became terminal. The video, 19 minutes long, addressed various family members, but the final 5 minutes were dedicated entirely to Catherine. "You gave more to this family than we ever gave you," he said, visibly emotional. "Diana would be proud of you. So am I." As the screen went black, Catherine collapsed forward in tears, her hand covering her mouth. Palace aides quickly entered, helping her to a nearby sofa. Though physically unharmed, she remained in emotional distress for several hours. William canceled his public appearances for the next 72 hours, choosing to stay by her side. The palace released no official statement, but insiders described the moment as the breaking of a dam. After years of quiet strength, Catherine had finally let go. It wasn't just the message itself, it was the timing. Within 1 week, Catherine had read Diana's letters, uncovered a secret inheritance for Charlotte, witnessed Camilla's silent condemnation, and now received Charles's deepest gratitude. In that collapse was the weight of legacy, loyalty, and expectation, all passed to her in a span of 6 days. And through it all, the world watched, not as critics, but as supporters. Queen Catherine soon trended across platforms for 4 straight days. For William, it was the moment everything changed. The farewell video wasn't just Charles's goodbye. It was a final shift in the monarchy's emotional core. Charles had acknowledged not only Diana's voice, but Catherine's role in continuing it. As Catherine slowly returned to public life days later, she carried something more powerful than a title. She carried the burden of truth, sealed in velvet and tears. Catherine's collapse was the emotional climax, but not the end. With Diana's voice revived, Charles's farewell delivered, and the Queen's hidden alliance exposed, a new future now stood before the royal family. And at its center was a child, Princess Charlotte, waiting unknowingly to inherit the final dream of a grandmother she never met. The monarchy's past had finally spoken. But the final chapter wasn't about what was found in the box. It was about what happens next. Diana's message lives on. As of March 2024, the jewelry box and all its contents have been moved to a secured underground vault in Windsor Castle, accessible only by William, Catherine, and senior royal archivists. The collection is now being officially designated under the Diana Preservation Act, a new private legal framework ensuring that none of the items can be sold, displayed, or altered without Charlotte's direct consent upon adulthood, expected around 2033. The monarchy is no longer simply protecting Diana's memory, it is preserving her voice. Plans are in motion to establish the Diana Trust, chaired by Catherine, with William serving as patron. The Trust's mission will be to educate future generations on Diana's legacy, promote causes she championed, and, most importantly, protect the truth behind the jewels. Public interest remains high, with over 12 million online petitions signed in support of a future exhibit. But William has remained firm. This is not spectacle. It's sacred. Catherine has also begun writing a private journal for Princess Charlotte, detailing the journey of the box's discovery. In it, she reportedly describes how Diana reached across time to place truth in our hands. The sapphire earrings and tiara will remain sealed until Charlotte reaches the age of 18, at which time she will be given the full history, not by press conference, but by her parents. Diana's gift, after all, wasn't meant for tabloids. It was meant for family. In the end, the jewelry box was more than gold and diamonds. It was a bridge, from a woman who once stood alone to the granddaughter who would one day lead with grace. Diana didn't need to reclaim the throne. She rewrote it from below. And through Charlotte, Catherine, and William, the people's princess finally passed on her crown. Not in ceremony, but in truth. This wasn't just jewelry. It was a mother's final message, sealed in velvet and memory. From sapphire heirlooms to emotional letters for Charlotte, Diana's voice has returned louder than ever. As the world takes in these revelations, one truth is clear. The crown may be worn, but legacy is inherited. If this story moved you, like and subscribe, because Diana's truth has only just begun to surface, and we'll be here to uncover every piece of it.